Hey.
Hey Vijay,
Hello.
thank you so much for coming on the Warrior podcast. Super excited to do this. How long has CAN been around?
Collective was formed on the 1st of July 2021.
4 years,
Uh,
3 years.
yeah, approximately about 3 years. But a chunk of the leadership and the key sort of management of the company has been around or has worked with each other for 10 plus years.
Okay.
So it's a fairly well knit and it's a tight community of people that
Hmm.
have worked together now for over a decade. And yeah, it's been nothing short of a ridiculously crazy ride in the last 3 years, where I think a lot of things have happened.
Whenever I think of artists or anyone thinks of artists, the image that you get are people who are very talented but are also emotional, who are on the edge because art could be a roller coaster. There could be moments of extreme validation, and there could be moments where things are not going well. As someone managing artists, and this is not a question I could ask a lot of people, so I'm going to ask you,
Hmm.
as someone managing artists, does that also mean managing emotional or providing emotional support?
I mean, I guess this question gets asked because there is some kind of a prefixed assumption on what it is to work with artists. I think creative people, I think it's people management at the end of the day. I
Hmm.
think you manage, if me as a manager or as a leader in the organization, if I have to manage creative people within the organization, there's an art of managing that as well. Now that we have a bunch of product and tech companies, managing tech talent
Yeah.
itself is also an art, right? In
Right.
that sense. Or if you're working in an advertising agency, managing a creative director, it
Right.
requires its own thing, right? I just feel there's so much of gold dust that's sprinkled around these conversations of artists and their moods, etc.
Mm.
I think I base it down to first principles, maybe because I've been an artist myself,
Mm.
uh, as a drummer back in the day. I think it's just about managing people.
Yeah.
I think you have to have empathy, you have to have love for the people that you work with. And I think the first principles of managing people remain the same, whether they're employees, whether they're, your peers or their clients that you work with.
I love that because there is an artist inside most creative folks, whether that has become their main job or not.
Hmm.
Even a highly dedicated computer engineer might consider his coding as an
Yeah,
art,
absolutely.
and they could be very emotional. So as you said, there will be a lot of emotional management even in
Yep.
other companies.
Yep.
Building on to that same question, when you start off a company, right? So if you say you want to become a CEO or you want to start a startup, that journey from 0 to 1, say getting your first 10 paying customers versus 10 to 100, where you're kind of building up,
Scaling.
scaling up, and then beyond 100. This is a question that I've often asked myself, that what are the skill sets that change? What would make you successful from 0 to 10 versus 10 to 100?
I think it's a very interesting one, but again, I like to live life on first principles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think perseverance is key,
Mm-hmm.
uh, patience is key, and I think people are key. So I basically put it down to these three P's. uh, I think talent can be honed, talent can be skilled. I don't think you can buy a good attitude. So if you ask me, one of my biggest journeys was, in the 0 to 1 journey, is externally what is the demand that I'm forecasting and satiating, and what is my reason to exist. Similarly, internally, what is my reason to exist,
Mm-hmm.
right? So why should somebody want to be employed in my company, and what is my purpose in the world? So if you look at the case of Collective, our purpose was to find new age disruption in the media business, right? That is our that is our reason to exist, right? And by doing that, you enhance the value of talent that you represent, the network that you represent, also
Right.
clients and buyers that you work with.
Right.
Internally, I wanted this to become a place where, if you really want to work in the media and entertainment business, this will be a place which will give you a career to launch, right? So I think when you start off, it's literally I think the reason why I say patience, perseverance, and people is all three kind of required to physically live here, but
Mm.
mentally live 5 years ahead, right? So I actually don't curb it as 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 and 10 to 100. I actually base it on what the end goal is. Well, yes, sure, the end goal may shift, but at least when you start off, you want to know what will this look like at its peak,
Mm.
right? And that question usually you can't answer if you just on a 0 to 1 thing. I think that's a more startup thing because you're constantly in the cycle of raising money, raising
Right.
funds, running behind investors. I think the modern day startup CEO is more investment banker who's consistently creating a pitch deck to raise equity,
Right.
vis-a-vis spending as much time in building the business. So I have a very contrarian point of view on this.
Mm.
I think these are all internet enabled tech conversations that have come to life, but I think
Mm.
fundamentally you just have to know what's your impact in the world. Yeah. I think that's where it sits with me.
Can I ask you to go a little deeper into
Yeah.
that? Because nowadays, starting a startup has become a buzzword,
Yeah.
right? So there are a lot of kids who read about this, they see podcasts, and they're like, oh, okay, I want to be a startup founder. It's almost like a career choice. But there is no fixed pattern, or there's no fixed educational path to becoming a startup founder. And people usually associate starting up with getting investments, angel investors, all of that. So if you have an idea, let's pitch this idea, let's sell this idea. What is wrong with that protocol? What is wrong with that system?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think the conversation is not. See, you need capital and you need resources to always make dreams come to life,
Right.
right? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think what happens is, and I keep having this conversation now that we have a fund ourselves and now that we've acquired a bunch of companies. With every founder who I acquired, I kept asking them one question: is the valuation a vanity metric,
Mm.
right? Do you want to say, I raised at a value of 100 million, or do you actually believe you have that kind of impact?
Mm.
Because I think the one thing that doesn't sit, I think what's happened is just to get yourself a quote, it's become really thing, right? XYZ raises money from ABC,
Right.
or says founder CEO, I'm looking for except I genuinely believe that a lot of this also sits in vanity.
Yeah.
And so, one of the key questions I asked, we've acquired 5 companies in the last year and a half, and to each founder I said, listen, right at the beginning of the conversation I said, I'm not a bank.
Mm.
I'm here because I can turbocharge your business.
Mm.
I'm not here because I want to satiate your vanity. Right. So if you're here to really build a business, that's where we do it, because that's how I'm also portraying it in the
Mm.
market.
Mm.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But
Mm.
as long as you know what you're doing for the right reasons.
Mm.
I think this entire I've been an angel investor. Now I'm a venture capitalist through Collective. Through the fund that we have with Gruhas Collective.
Mm.
But for me, I think at the end of the day, if you're starting a consumer brand, what's the consumer need you're satisfying?
Yeah.
If you're starting a media company, why should you exist there? If you're starting an internet company, how are you different than the 100 other internet companies that are out there? So I just feel that I'm not saying, I'm not judging it,
Mm.
but I'm just hoping that, and that's the protocol I follow, that the founders do it for the right reasons.
Mm.
Vanity is dangerous.
But at the same time, when we talk about art, I would push back on that point, which is a lot of art is vanity driven, in the sense that you want people to see you, or you want people to see what
Sure.
you have created. So is there a paradox there?
I think the two differences, right? I think as a CEO, you have a different battle.
Mm.
As an artist, you have a different battle.
Mm.
As an artist, you're satiating one of 3 needs: social validation, emotional validation, financial validation. In more often than not, artists let go of emotional validation in exchange for social validation and financial validation, right? In the case of a CEO, you might hit that cycle where you want to do this with your degree of mental peace, or whatever that equivalent to.
Right.
But if you're an artist, why are you an artist?
Mm.
It satiates the creative side to you. If you want to be famous, why are you doing this podcast? I'm guessing you're doing this podcast because you like the followers that you have on Instagram, you like the reach that you have on YouTube and Instagram. that gives you social validation. In that process, you may make money, that gives you financial validation. So artists are driven by that, right? So I keep telling artists that you want to be famous, you want to make money. The best case is you make money while becoming famous, right? I don't think that's the same rule with uh, if you're running if you're running a logistics company.
Sure.
I don't think I think you're not down that path.
Yeah. You're not chasing fame so much.
I mean, you may be chasing fame, but you're actually starting a business to create an enterprise, right? And in that process, it's a very new phenomenon. I mean, the US I mean, think about it. Think globally 15 mega star entrepreneurs. Look outside of Steve Jobs and Elon Musk
Yeah.
and Mukesh Bhai, for example, right?
In fact, there are more people who became famous first and then became entrepreneurs,
Entrepreneurs.
rather than the other way around.
So I think artists are different because artists start on a journey solo and then build an enterprise around. It's the inverse if you're a operator of a business.
So there is a core conflict when an artist turns entrepreneur, because artists are largely solo workers. They rely on their art. They are used to going up on stage, performing. Everything revolves around them. And any enterprise, any kind of entrepreneurship requires you to collaborate. It requires a team effort. Have you found that journey to be a problem from an artist to an entrepreneur, that collective nature of work? Has that been a challenge for you or for other artists who became entrepreneurs?
I mean, it's about stage of life. If you're a singer looking to break through, if you're an actor looking to break through, I really don't think you're really sitting and thinking about, what an enterprise looks like.
Correct.
I think you're looking to basically just satiate your basic instincts.
Correct.
Which is to make it, right? Once they make it, I think it's a myth that they can't collaborate. And I think I'm in a fair position to say that today. I think if it depends on what path you show them, and I'm of the firm belief that in the artist business, if you want to work with an artist, you look at the best relationship, right? You look at Michael Ovitz in the West, you look at Ari Emanuel, you look at the father of the agent business in India, which is Mark Mascarenhas. You look at all of them, or even with the few clients that I represent, I'm very, very clear that I love them and I have to be a partner with them in this journey. So my investment in them is emotional, is personal, and when you put that kind of trust into your own system, usually the guy is discerning enough, or the person is discerning enough to see it, right? And they're like, isko katthe banate hain, in that sense. So I think it's a myth. I think a lot of artists is a myth because you perceive a lot of things, in the market. You perceive, I mean, today you have great CEOs who've not made it as collaborative leaders. It's happened.
Yeah.
The best founders don't make great CEOs.
Yeah.
It's happened. Why is that being treated? I think so. Just the prism is viewed differently because somebody's a celebrity.
Yeah.
You view it differently. But I can name a bunch of founders who've been miserable CEOs and operators.
Right.
It's the same problem as collaborations.
Right. So that ties back to my original question of starting up is a different skill set and running a company is a different skill
100%.
set.
I think an operator, I think Jobs was great.
Yeah.
But I think Tim Cook is great. I'm right now
Yeah.
reading Tim Cook's book, right? I think you can innovate, but to operate while you are innovating,
Right.
that's the key, right? I mean, if you read Elon Musk's biography, it's up for debate whether is he a great operator, right? It's up, the jury's out on that.
He's a visionary. He might take you forward.
Yeah. You look at Sergey Brin and Larry Page. They needed an Eric Schmidt to get that process up and running.
Right.
I think the most lethal businessmen are also great operators.
Right.
So I actually find myself in that delicate balance every single day now that, we're 500 employees and the company is growing very fast, is how do I wake up every morning, marry the vision with the operations of the business.
Right.
And without getting managerial,
Right.
but also not becoming this blue sky thinker who doesn't understand the ground reality of what can and cannot happen within the capacity of the org. So the best leaders are those who can marry both.
and 500 is a pretty large number, but it's also still in the manageable space where you could still know them sort of by face. Anything more than that, suppose it reaches 1000, 2000, at some point you are not talking to everyone.
It's happening right now.
It's happening
It's
right now
happening right
already.
now. It's happening right now.
So here's my question, which is, if it's just you and a team of 10 people, you can still, or your motivation, your energy levels could still rub off on others. Now, if there are 500 or 1000 people, how do you ensure that the trickle down of motivation continues?
It's the biggest challenge of any organization. I mean, it's not unique to me.
Right.
And I think that's what proverbially you define as culture of the company, right? So I think we lay emphasis on, some people call it the secret sauce, some people call it culture, some people print it on their walls, some people print it on their diaries. I do not have culture written anywhere in the organization, but right up there in the induction, I am very clear that you have to live in a certain rule book. So the way I word culture is, you're living in a country, you need to live by the laws of the country. So imagine a company is a country, there are laws in that country, you have to live by those laws, and that's what you define as culture, right? So I think if roll number 47, who has my line of sight, can communicate to roll number 117, can then subsequently communicate to roll number 497, that's the trickle down effect. But here's the truth, Sid, I don't think you'll succeed 100%. And this is where, if you read the Everything Store, where Amazon have Jeff Bezos says this great thing: 70% good is great. You don't need disagree and commit. Right? These are golden rules. At 500 people, I can't expect 500 people to breathe the same
To
culture.
be on the same boat, yeah.
If I have 70% of the organization breathing the same boat, we're winning.
Yeah.
Right? If we're winning 65-70% at 1,000, we're winning. So I think you need to marry it with some amount of practicality.
Right.
And I think that's what we look to believe. So the answer to your question is, the trickle down effect happens via leadership and breathing and forming a code of conduct from an organization. Like, we trust our people, right? Like, for example, we don't have leave policy. We have not yet, so for example, if you want to take 2 weeks off, you can take 2 weeks off.
Okay.
Right? We trust you that you'll do the right thing.
Right.
So, I mean, these are little codes that you bring into the company.
And it starts with you, doesn't it? As the CEO, the head of the company, there is a lot of pressure on you to behave in a certain way all the time. Is that a real thing? Do you feel that?
Yes, because I think as you scale, I try and not let my basic instinct change too much. So I am quite approachable in that sense. Now, I know some people, it's different strokes for different strokes, but I think the best way to answer is how did I feel 10 years ago when I started, and how do I feel today?
Yeah, that's a good
right
comparison.
So if internally in my core, I look at a human being who happens to be an employee, and I feel the same way about that person, I think I am good. Because a lot of this is also about how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And that's where success getting to your head or failure bogging you down, I think, really matter. And it really helps that I think we've gone through a significant, ebb and flows over the last 3-4 years, that we've come to a place where today I believe the best word, and I'm in show business, the best selling point we have as a company, I believe, is if you're real. Right. So I have no optic games within the organization. Right. So I tell people, don't take yourself too seriously. We are somebody, we're a slap on the back organizational culture. We're not uptight. We're not restrictive in our communication. So I think what happens is it gets set at the top. So if you know that you can barge into your office, to your boss's office, the CEO's office, and if there's a conversation, the expectation is everyone in the hallways and the corridors across the country,
Right.
and now in the world, we're opening up Dubai and Middle East, is expected to behave the same way.
Right.
Because an employee can always walk up and say, if the boss doesn't behave like this,
Right.
what gives you the right?
Right.
Simple.
You mentioned before about artists putting their emotional validation behind in exchange for social and financial. Let's talk about the mental health of artists, because mental health overall is a topic that has become very, very important in today's time, especially in the time of social media. And artists are in the thick of it. They are performing, they are putting themselves out there. Now, when it comes to, say, the traditional artists, which is, say, movie stars, they have always been used to that kind of scrutiny. Now, as somebody who's worked with them, how often does even the conversation of mental health come up?
A lot. I mean, you know, and I give a lot of this even to, I think Deepika broke
Yeah.
a lot of walls back in the day, and and
Yeah, she played a big role
yeah,
in.
I credit her a lot for
Yeah.
this entire conversation, right? I think it's a big thing. I think mental health is a real thing. uh, I think it's interesting. In my last offsite, when I was closing my offsite, the first one of my slides said, "It's okay to not be okay," right? And it's completely fine.
Yeah.
And I think with artists, you're always on the limelight. What you guys don't see is the struggle and the ability to not be in a position at times to walk down the road, right?
Yeah.
Those are things, everything that you take for granted, as much as you'd like to believe that there's always they're always famous, and they have everything that they want, but the little things in life that you take for granted, they can't, right?
Like privacy.
Like privacy, right?
Yeah.
Like literally right to privacy.
Yeah.
You walk out of a restaurant,
Yeah.
you don't have anything there.
Yeah.
Very seldom have I gone out, for example, for a dinner with a client, and they've not been intruded upon.
Yeah.
There is a price to fame.
Right.
There's no doubt about it.
Even during dinner, someone would
Yeah,
come
yeah,
up.
there
Can
is
I
a
have a
price. There is a
photograph?
price to fame, and I
Right.
think mental health is a real thing.
Right.
I am a very, very firm believer in that concept of taking care of your mind,
Right.
right? And it always does. And one of the things that I'm also seeing is, it always doesn't have to be linked to success. You can have the most successful people who are not doing well mentally,
Right.
right? So you can have a great family, you can have everything going right from a optics perspective, what the world will say,
Yeah.
you know घर बंगला गाड़ी बीवी बच्चे, लेकिन
Yeah.
फिर भी you know it still matters. You can still not be okay.
Yeah.
And I really feel for them, and I'm very empathetic towards it. I'm very aware about it, I'm very real about it. And when people come and talk to me saying, all that glitters is not gold,
Yeah.
I think there is a reality there that people need to be sensitive to.
In fact, if anything, if I were to put myself in those shoes, somebody who optically has everything going on for them, and suppose if they are going through a low emotional phase, they might get even less empathy than, say, somebody else who's not that famous, because the people around them, the go-to response is, "Arey, tujhe kya problem ho sakta hai?
Yeah.
What is you have everything," which is such a difficult contrast to deal with in your mind.
I think, like I said, right, only nobody can really tell what's going on inside your mind.
Yeah.
And I'm very clear. I think the fact is, like I said, the little things that you take for granted, sometimes you can't.
Yeah.
And I feel with artists, that's a very, even with the creator economy, right? uh, the performance of a reel, how many likes, these are all anxiety inducing issues, right? I mean, come on, you're getting paid for, a brand is giving you money because that damn red heart has to be filled,
Yeah.
right? uh, so if your livelihood is dependent on someone else validating you, that's what a Friday opening at the box office is,
Right.
right? It's someone else consistently validating your work in public, which is linked back to your vocation. It's anxiety inducing. So I think my creator team spends a lot of time with creators saying, if your content doesn't work for a little while, don't get anxious. It's okay. What can we change? What can we tweak? So whether you call it anxiety, whether you call it depression, whether you call it any other term, I would just say the mental state of mind and the health of the mind is something that we are very, very clear about acknowledging whilst crafting careers.
It's such an important point, and I'm glad you raised it, because you connected the film industry, or the traditional artist industry to content creation. And there are unique problems that earlier only people in the film or the say theater industry would be facing, which is validation from an audience deciding how you feel about yourself. Somebody who's working a 9 to 5 job might not face that kind of pressure because they are getting their fixed salary and they know their job. This sense of lack of control, you can't control what the audience will do. So this sense of lack of control is uniquely an artist experience. And now in today's time, who is not an artist? Everybody with a phone is creating content.
Yeah.
So the line between audience and performer has
Has
really
blurred.
blurred. So does that mean that people, a random person who is creating a reel on Instagram is facing a very similar challenge to a movie star?
In their cohort, yes. But I think the beauty about it is today, if you're creating art in Jabalpur, if you're a chef in Jaisalmer, if you're a gym instructor in Gurgaon, if you're a handicraft person in Chennai, the flip to it is social media and the internet has given you the power of converting your passion into your vocation, which I don't think was the case back in the day. I always believe that India has historically had two places of pop culture iconicity. It was cricket and movies. I think with the advent of digital media, that's really broken waves. So actually, to that community, I see it more as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Because today, you can take up careers by just being a great writer. You can take up careers by being a great visual artist. And I genuinely believe that's what I'm trying to power, or we are trying to power through Collective Artist Network, is using technology, using our entire network across the company. How can we power the one guy sitting? Back in the day, you used to hear stories about मैं ट्रेन में आया था, बॉम्बे में स्टेशन में 3 रात सोया था. आज वो सब करने की जरूरत नहीं.
Yeah.
You have infrastructure. You
Yeah.
have people like us who are going out there and trying to find that, right? So I think that's an opportunity, but I think every opportunity has a flip.
Yeah.
I think the flip of this is you're in such a fight for mental real estate that you really, it's like, back in the day, a ripe piece of land opens up and every single realtor wants to bid for it.
Yeah.
That's literally your Instagram feed or your YouTube feed right
Yeah.
now, right? You want to bid for it. You want to ensure your content is engaging. That's the flip of it.
Yeah.
But that's not, but I would also think that it's bringing a lot more people into the economy
Yeah.
vis-a-vis not. So I would rather have this than
Yeah.
not have it at all.
So earlier, access to this level of attention was a very gated thing. Only a few people could get access to come in front of a camera. But now there is a sort of a democratization of access. But with that has also brought in a democratization of all the mental health issues that come with this level of scrutiny. Now, there are a lot of kids who want to become content creators because they see how others have made it. Suppose if there's somebody 18 years old who comes to you and says, I want to become a content creator. First of all, suppose if it's someone in your family, first of all, would you be encouraging or would you have certain warnings for them?
No, I'll be encouraging.
You'd be encouraging.
100%.
Are there warnings associated with that?
It can go wrong.
Hmm.
You may not make it.
Hmm.
But, that's not very different than putting your school, if your kid is talented in cricket, putting him in the school cricket team and state elections and
Right.
state selections, right?
Right.
So my only warnings would be, you may not make it. It's as binary as that. And what you define as make it is subjective to you.
Hmm.
Do you want to earn? Do you want to do it only for the money?
Hmm.
Do you want to do it because through content you can make an impact, which otherwise is so far. I mean, nothing sells like content. Nothing sells like culture, right? It's the best way. The best. I mean, you want to sell tourism. Why did the Switzerland tourism pick up, right? Because of what Yash Chopra did for that, right? Why was Incredible India so beautiful? Because it was a creative idea that really stuck. A lot of those monuments have been around forever. Why did Vodafone and Zuzu's work well back in the day, right? Because it was a creative idea. So nothing sells like content. So if you want to actually make that impact, why not?
Yeah.
Right? I know a lot of people who've turned vegetarian because of a Netflix documentary,
Yeah.
right? So content is the most powerful tool that one has to create impact. Uh, the flip is you have to define what you want out of it. So hypothetically, if it was my child who came and told me I want to become a content creator, I'll bucket it as, what are your financial goals? Why do you want to do this? The only negative I'll have is don't do it because everyone's doing it, because then you really won't stand out. I can, like I said, people keep asking me, why are you building this large company, and why are you acquiring these companies? 'Cause, what we're doing at Collective hasn't really been done before, but I'm doing it to create impact in the next 20, 30 years.
Right.
I'm not doing it to sit back today and just uh, just practically earn brokerage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think you have to identify why you're doing it. So I think more than advice, I will first ask them why, and then let them take the risk.
This opens up a interesting question, which is, suppose somebody is becoming a content creator or starting to create content today. The world of content creation is changing very rapidly with different social media platforms, different trends. As somebody who's in the thick of things, how does it change? What do you think is going to be the main changes over the next 5-10 years in the world of content creation?
I think you'll have more skilled creators coming in every genre. I think it is going to create another form of organized economy. What do I mean by saying that? Imagine what Future Group did back in the day for organized retail, right? Or what Reliance is doing right now for telecommunications, right? And telcos, by actually giving you 470 million having the internet, right? I think what will happen is more people through access of the internet in India. I'm not talking about the world. I'm talking in India. As and when India becomes internet rich, we'll become content rich. And I think what will happen is you'll have newer ways of communication, right? Suddenly, for example, look at the disruption that have happened, right? Post COVID, everybody said people may not want to go watch concerts. You have more festivals in the country right now than you
Yeah.
ever had before,
Yeah.
right? Yes. Have you had a replacement for TikTok? The answer is no. But having said that, you see how Instagram is growing. You see how YouTube is growing. You see how, OTT, you have more OTT guys springing up every second of the way. You look at media rights in sports, suddenly digital rights are more expensive than satellite rights, right?
Yeah.
So everything is getting disrupted because of internet. And I believe that as long as the internet continues to empower knowledge, you'll have more people coming in to impart that knowledge through content, which means that more people get into the economy. So I'm akinning it to think of what Zomato did for e-commerce and food delivery did for delivery boys. Think of what Uber did for taxi drivers. You had more people coming into a formalized economy
Right.
after these technology disruptions came in.
Right.
So similarly, imagine today if you have this whole breed of creators, right? That 500 beauty creators making money just on beauty tips.
Right.
That itself is an income into the economy. So it's GDP aggressive. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so let me see if I understand this, because usually the evolution of any industry is disruption, individual creators or individual companies, and eventually conglomerization,
Consolidation.
consolidation. Are you seeing
We are
that
still in
happen?
disruption phase.
Right, we are still in disruption phase. So currently we have, say, maybe 25,000 creators. Now, are you saying that eventually they will merge into creator
No.
companies?
I believe that you'll have more enterprises, right? I believe you look at, say, for example, today Bhuvan Bam runs Bhuvan Bam BBK Wines Productions.
Right.
You have Sharan who runs 1%.
You're right.
Right? You'll have many such conversations. You
Right.
have Parul Gulati who runs a hair. I'm not talking celebrities. I'm talking about
Content creators
content creators
starting
who run
businesses.
businesses, right? So I believe you'll have more Mr. Beasts,
Right.
right? You'll have more PewDiePies, right? Who become standalone organizations, right? You look at the beautiful work that, say, Veer is doing with Weird Ass, for
Right.
example. I'm talking. You look at what what Divine is doing with Gully Gang,
Right.
right? These are all enterprises that are happening. I'm not talking celebrities. I'm
Not
talking
even
about
just IPs. You're talking of
they're
businesses.
talking about businesses, right? So
Yeah.
I think look at what happens in China, right? On a Black Friday sale, you have live commerce creators making. Now, in
Yeah.
our business, I think content creation is still only linked to advertising.
Right.
We haven't even unlocked commerce yet.
Hmm.
Imagine, for example, Ankur Warikoo does so much business on selling courses, for
Right.
example, right? You have so many examples of people who are going out there and pushing the boundary, and you won't even know how deep the well is till you actually get into the business, right? And that's the beautiful thing about, I look at this lovely company we just acquired called Terribly Tiny Tales, right?
Yeah. I like
Such
their work.
such great content and so much depth in their content. Now but they have 1,000 writers, right? Now all of them are getting work. It's beautiful for me to see that come to life, right? And now imagine what we did with Under 25 Universe, where we have 2.5 lakh student creators on our platform. So these are students making 50 rupees, 70 rupees, 100 rupees. So imagine now we've brought in the first 3 months of this year, I'll give you our stats because I can speak from our numbers. We've gotten more than 50,000 creators money on creating content that they never did 3 months ago. That's 50,000 new ways of making money. Now that's powerful.
So
When
these
there
are
are
people.
50,000, these are random people. This is some college kid who has 2,000 followers on Instagram, and he's getting $75 to promote a brand's reel, right? It's outstanding. It's never happened.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're doing something great. I'm saying that latent talent was always there.
Right.
Somebody had to model it and extract the innovation in it.
Right.
So I think we're not inventing, we're innovating. We are creating the market as we go along, right? I'm not making a phone, right? I'm actually going into someone's creative prowess and just extracting it out of it.
Right.
That's really what we're doing, and we're powering it through tech.
So if someone wants to become a better content creator, in terms of not just their core talent, but overall become more efficient, move towards building a brand for themselves, what would you advise?
Stay authentic and don't try and divulge too many lanes. And again, don't fall for vanity metrics. Don't buy followers. Don't artificially boost up your reach. Don't do stupid things. Don't do things that are unsustainable. So in the social media age, when you buy followers, when you artificially boost your accounts, it's equal to burning money in startups. That gravy train will leave at some point in time, right? Because you can't throw money for people to engage with you. People need to find the need to engage with you. So don't do stupid things. Build your audience on authenticity. This is where your first question was, will you advise them?
Yeah.
If you can't follow that, if people don't follow you, then you're not good enough and know when to leave the train.
So this goes back to that main vanity metric, which is that number, the followers number. If that becomes your main
Not
North Star,
necessarily. I'll again go back to Terribly Tiny Tales. There are 3.5 million
Right.
followers. They're not 50 million. But those 3.5 million followers, 80-90% of them are fans of the community.
they're genuine.
So they'll have really high engagement rates. I'd much rather have that versus somebody, who shows they have 20 million followers where really there's no belief system there. Right? So you really have to pick your domain of authenticity. Right? If you're a great actor, people expect you to be a great actor. If you're a great designer, people expect you to have a great fashion parade, for example. If you're somebody who wants to advise on beauty, you should know what works for
Right.
different skin types. People need to trust you. If you're somebody who's advising on baby products, you should know very, very well on what is it that makes things convenient. If you're a travel influencer, you should know everything you need to know about places you're traveling. That's how you really engage with following, right? Otherwise, why would you?
Right. Because your audience is coming to you for a reason.
Yeah, it's appointment viewing. It's like my fundamental view here is I go back to the fundamentals of my roots, which is heavy metal. I'm a Metallica fan.
I can see all the posters all
there
around.
you go. I went to Munich to watch Metallica.
Wow.
They drew me, right? In 2 weeks, I'm going to watch Slipknot in New York. And for me, I'm going all the way across the seven seas to watch a band of my... But Slipknot's not for everybody.
Hmm.
It's Metallica is not for everybody.
Yeah.
So, when you wear a Metallica shirt, like I as a fan, feel very offended if somebody just wears a Metallica shirt and doesn't know their music.
Right.
Right? I'll be like, that's not a fashion statement. That's a
Right.
tribe.
Right.
Right? If you don't know enough about the tribe, don't support it. You know.
So if you are a content creator, you have to create your own tribe.
Yeah. You have
That's
to
the
create
take
your
home
own
message.
community.
We are speaking about music. You've had your origins in music. Can you tell me how you went from music, drums, to founding a company?
I was playing the drums for my band. Actually, I was supposed to manage my band. Then my drummer didn't show up. So kind of stepped in to play drums for
Okay.
a show, and we were playing really simple songs. And I think it's in my genes because my grandfather was a ace mridangam player.
Oh wow.
So I started picking up the drums, and I really liked smashing the living daylights out of the drum skins. So I continued to play the drums, and I continued to manage the band as I played the drums.
Right.
That happened for about 10 years. So entertainment came to me naturally.
10 years.
Yeah, and that happened to me very, very naturally. And for me, it was very clear that, uh, you know, through my third semester of mechanical engineering, I said, "Ye nahi hoga." So I finished my degree for whatever it was worth, only to sort of say I'm not. So I didn't pursue an MBA.
Right.
I'm probably the only guy in my batch who didn't sit for a single campus recruitment because I
Yeah.
knew this I'm not doing.
Right.
I knew I won't be sitting and coding somewhere, or I won't be sitting and working for.
That was not your calling.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to be in entertainment. But, so the moment the band broke up, my mental framework was if I can't be on stage, I need to be the biggest reason for putting people on stage. Right. So that's the motto with which I've kind of lived in the last 15, 20 years.
I love that. This is going to be a very chill, relaxed question. And this is sort of the final part of it, which is your go to music recommendations.
Mine are very heavy. So Metallica, Korn, Slipknot, Sepultura, Slayer, System of a Down.
Oh, yeah.
At that part, or on the other side, it will be extremely mass, which is Kumar Sanu, Udit Narayan, classic Bollywood, Govinda classics. So
Govinda.
there is no mid path. So I'm not a blues guy. I'm not a jazz guy.
Right.
I'm not a EDM guy. I'm not a Swiftie. I'm not a rock and roll guy. None of that. So either it's acute, aggressive, balls to the walls heavy metal,
Yeah.
or it's absolutely Ganpati Visarjan dance music of Bollywood. There's nothing in the middle.
All right. I love that. But it's not death. It's not death metal.
It's death metal.
It's death metal?
Death is one of my favorite bands.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't root Cannibal Corpse and that kind of death metal.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you ask me, new age metal was big. I got into a lot of death. I mean, whether you classify, you don't classify bands like. I mean, I never got into like, the absolute underground graveyard death metal.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Slipknot is as heavy as they
Sure.
come, or you look at bands like Static X, Deftones. These are all very heavy music. So I just stuck to really being that heavy. But yeah, I didn't go for absolute white noise either.
Yeah. My exploration in that part of music was Iron Maiden and
Yeah, so Maiden is
Metallica.
there. I opened for Iron Maiden, so
Wow. Oh,
one of my
wow.
best days of my life. So I opened for Iron Maiden in 2009 in Bangalore Palace grounds.
All right, that is incredible. Okay, so Iron Maiden was a very big favorite of mine, and as well as Metallica. But then somehow my music journey went more towards the acoustic side of things. I
So
started
that's
learning
not
the
for me.
guitar.
John Mayer,
Yeah,
John
yeah.
Legend,
None of that.
sitting with a guitar and no, can't do it. Can't do it.
Because I noticed that you had a guitar in the office, and I wondered if that was for you.
So I play the guitar because obviously I can't play the acoustic drum, so I have an electronic drum kit at home. I play the piano. I love learning new instruments.
Right.
I just got the hang drum, which is lovely to play with. So I love exploring new instruments.
And is that still part of your life? You're still exploring music?
It's my meditation. So I don't do yoga. I don't do any of that. Playing music is my meditation.
And you still play professionally?
No, Where the only thing I do professionally is collective artist network, nothing else. Takes all my time.
Amazing. Vijay, thank you so much
Thank
for
you for
having
having me.
me.
Lovely conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. This was really great. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who would be having questions about, if you're a content creator, how do you start your journey? How do you
Hmm.
join a network like this? So if there's any links that you can give me, I can put it
Sure. I
up.
mean, I'll probably have my teams on this
Yeah.
interview give you a bunch of links, and you can download the Big Bang Social app. You can download the Under 25 app.
Yeah.
They're all available on Android, on the Play Store and on the Apple Store.
Yeah.
You guys can go download it, and feel free to write to us.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. See you guys in the next episode.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.